So imagine for a second that your entire family is essentially bankrupt.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. You are sitting at the kitchen table. You're aggressively cutting back on basic groceries. You're trying to figure out how to just keep the heat on this winter.
A really dire situation.
Exactly. And while you are doing this, while you're stressing over pennies, the person who managed your finances, the actual person who drove you into this massive debt, is just standing in the doorway.
Uh,
Yeah, and they're asking you to fund their luxury retirement package for the rest of their natural life.
I mean, you'd probably throw them out of the house.
Totally. You'd be furious. Yet, on a national scale, that is the exact dynamic. Citizens are expected to just, accept from their political leaders every single day.
Yeah, it really is the ultimate broken social contract, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, the people steering the ship get this massive golden parachute, even when the ship hits an iceberg.
Yeah.
And the passengers, they're just left treading water.
Right. And that tension, that visceral feeling of a rigged system is exactly where we are starting today. Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are looking closely at one of the most fascinating and, frankly, contentious governance reforms in recent memory. And that is Sri Lanka's decision to completely abolish lifetime pensions for its elected representatives.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
It is. But on the surface, like if you just read a headline, it might sound like an administrative tweak.
Yeah.
A little bit of bureaucratic housekeeping to save a few bucks.
Oh, absolutely. But peeling back the layers on these sources reveals a massive philosophical shift.
Right.
This isn't just about balancing a spreadsheet. It is a fundamental reevaluation of how an entire nation views leadership, taxpayer money, and really the historical weight of political privilege.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to really understand the magnitude of this reform, we have to look at the domestic pressure cooker that forced it into existence.
Boy, because this didn't happen in a vacuum.
Exactly. Sri Lanka didn't just wake up one day and decide to do this for fun. This move was born out of years of severe economic hardship and major fiscal challenges.
Yeah, a real state of crisis.
The government has been desperately trying to strengthen economic stability and manage public resources, and it's been incredibly tough on the people.
And, when a nation enters that kind of economic tailspin, the public's relationship with government spending changes basically overnight.
How so? What's the shift there?
Well, during a boom period, citizens might ignore political perks. Everyone is making money, so who cares if the mayor gets a fancy car, right?
Right.
But when inflation is skyrocketing and people are literally losing their livelihoods, every single public expense is suddenly put under a microscope.
It's the ultimate audit.
Exactly.
The citizens are essentially saying that taxpayer money has to be spent with extreme care and transparency now. I mean, think about it like this. If a household is facing severe financial challenges and trying to stabilize, you don't keep paying for the most expensive lifelong luxury subscriptions.
No, of course not.
You cut them. You cut the dead weight. And the citizens of Sri Lanka are looking at lifetime pensions for career politicians as the ultimate dead weight.
Yeah, and the sources highlight this core citizen belief emerging right now that public office should be rooted in service rather than long-term privileges.
But I have to push back here a little bit.
Sure.
Because historically, isn't there a very pragmatic reason for those perks? The whole argument for robust political compensation, the pensions, the allowances, is to attract highly qualified talent and, critically, to deter corruption.
Right, the old pay them well so they behave strategy.
Exactly. The theory is, if we pay our leaders incredibly well and secure their financial future, they won't need to accept bribes, and they won't need to be independently wealthy just to run for office in the first place.
That's a valid point.
So if we strip all of that away, aren't citizens basically saying the era of treating politics as a lucrative career is over? Aren't they telling good, capable people that politics is a terrible career choice?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the public is framing this as a demand for financial discipline.
Okay, financial discipline.
Right. They are pointing out a glaring, unbearable double standard regarding austerity.
Double standard, yeah.
Because when a country faces a severe economic downturn, who takes the hit? The public. They are told by their government to tighten their belts, to endure punishing inflation, to accept cuts to services.
And to pay higher taxes.
Exactly. They are told to practice financial discipline. So the citizens are now turning around and demanding that their leaders demonstrate the exact same financial discipline that is expected of ordinary citizens trying to survive an economic downturn.
It is a demand for shared sacrifice.
Yes. They are utterly rejecting the premise that elected officials should automatically receive lifelong taxpayer-funded security when the taxpayers footing the bill have absolutely none themselves.
If the country's in the mud,
Mhm.
the leaders need to be in the mud with the people. They don't get to just, hover above the crisis on a taxpayer-funded cushion for the rest of their lives just because their name was on a ballot a decade ago.
And that redefines the job description from the ground up.
It really does.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a really fascinating pivot in the sources. Because the public doesn't just want these lifelong privileges revoked so the money can disappear into some government vault.
Oh no, they have plans.
Exactly. They have a very specific vision for where that money needs to go instead. And this shifts the discussion from a negative action, cutting pensions, to a highly positive, constructive vision for their society.
Right. The sources explicitly list the areas citizens believe government spending should prioritize instead.
Right. And what are those areas?
We are talking about education, healthcare, infrastructure, employment generation, and social welfare.
Okay, so listener, I want you to think about your own community for a second. Think about that one dangerous intersection that has needed a traffic light for 10 years, or the local public school that can't afford new textbooks.
We all have those examples.
Right. If you could take the lifetime pension of a career politician, guaranteed monthly payments stretching out for decades, and redirect it directly into those projects, the impact would be staggering.
It really would. And this introduces a crucial concept here, the difference between static spending and generative spending.
Generative spending. Walk me through how that actually plays out on a balance sheet, because that feels like the core of the public's argument here.
Well, when you look at the citizens' wish list, healthcare, education, infrastructure, those are foundational building blocks of a functioning society.
Right.
They're generative investments. When a government puts a dollar into building a road or repairing a bridge, that dollar multiplies.
Oh, I see, because the construction company gets paid.
Exactly. They hire local workers. Those workers take their paychecks and buy groceries at the local market, and the grocer pays taxes back to the government.
The money is alive.
Yes. And furthermore, once the bridge is built, local businesses can transport their goods faster, which generates even more economic activity over the next 50 years. It creates a massive multiplier effect.
Right, compared to a pension, which is just static.
Precisely. A lifetime pension for an individual is a static, non-regenerative expense. You hand taxpayer money to one individual who is no longer producing any public value.
And they might just hoard it.
They might hoard it or invest it offshore or buy imported luxury goods. The economic multiplier effect for the broader local society is essentially zero. The capital is trapped.
So by redirecting funds to these generative areas, it aligns perfectly with the overall goal of actually improving public services.
It's a highly sophisticated macroeconomic argument the citizens are making.
But let's be real for a minute here. This brings us to a massive point of friction between the idealism of the voters and the cold, hard reality of national budgets.
Right, because economists love to ruin a good party with math.
They really do. The consensus among the economists and policy experts mentioned in the sources is that the direct financial savings from cutting these pensions might actually differ depending on how the reform is finally implemented.
Which is an academic way of saying it might not save that much money.
Exactly. A handful of pensions, even incredibly generous ones, usually represent a microscopic fraction of a nation's total deficit.
Yeah, you can't balance a bankrupt national budget just by cutting a few dozen retirement checks. The math simply doesn't scale.
So what does this all mean? I mean, it sounds like the economists are saying this might be a drop in the bucket financially, but it's an ocean of goodwill.
That's a great way to put it.
But is symbolism actually worth anything in a struggling economy? Can you pay for infrastructure with, good optics?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look past the immediate arithmetic and understand how trust functions in governance.
Trust as a currency.
Yes. In the middle of a national crisis, trust is a currency. When a nation is facing severe fiscal challenges, the government inevitably has to implement incredibly painful, deeply unpopular economic reforms.
Like raising taxes or cutting fuel subsidies.
Exactly. Brutal measures that inflict immediate pain on the working class. And people will riot if they feel the pain is entirely one-sided.
Right. If they look up and see the political class completely insulated from that pain, collecting massive pensions funded by the taxes, crushing the working class.
The public will absolutely revolt. They'll reject the necessary reforms, and the government loses all social license to govern.
Because the system feels explicitly rigged.
But, and here's the key, When institutions prove they are willing to strip themselves of their own established privileges, to stand in solidarity with the public, it changes the psychological dynamic of the country.
It buys them the social capital they need.
Exactly. The reform builds trust in institutions by showing the government is prepared to make difficult decisions and review long-standing benefits to align with changing economic realities.
So the symbolic significance is substantial. It acts as the key that unlocks the door to broader, perhaps more painful economic reforms down the line.
Precisely. Without that symbolic sacrifice, the public simply won't walk through the door.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because a symbolic move of this magnitude one that fundamentally rewrites the rules of political compensation rarely stays contained within one country's borders.
Ideas like this are highly contagious.
We are seeing a massive ripple effect. Sri Lanka's domestic trust-building exercise is sending absolute shockwaves through neighboring democratic societies.
Right. The sources explicitly note that this decision has generated considerable discussion in neighboring countries.
Yes, and India is specifically noted as a place where debates are now occasionally arising regarding the salaries, allowances, pensions, and privileges granted to their politicians.
It's a huge catalyst.
It is. It's like Sri Lanka just broke the unwritten rule of the political club, and now voters in other countries, like India, are looking at their own leaders and asking, wait, why aren't we doing that?
Because for decades, political establishments globally have relied on the inertia of tradition, the idea that this is just how democracies function.
But when one nation successfully dismantles that system during a crisis, it becomes a glaring, undeniable benchmark.
Exactly. Analysts see Sri Lanka's bold reform as a catalyst that could encourage wider conversations globally about accountability and the efficient use of public funds.
It questions the status quo of democratic compensation across borders. Citizens are realizing they hold the power to redefine the terms of service for their leaders.
And once they realize that, they don't unlearn it.
No, they don't. We have covered some incredible ground today. We started by looking at how Sri Lanka's historic decision to cut lifetime pensions was born directly from severe economic hardship.
Right, fueled by a public demanding that leaders share their financial burden.
Exactly. And we explored how that public wants that trapped, static wealth redirected into generative assets like healthcare and education.
This shift from austerity to investment.
Yes. And even though the direct financial savings might be a drop in the bucket, it serves as a massive symbolic victory. A mechanism for building the trust required to pass real economic reforms.
And now it's making politicians in neighboring countries sweat.
Big time. And while our focus today has been on the sources discussing Sri Lanka and India, the core question here is universally relevant to all of us.
It really is.
It doesn't matter where you live. The question of what we owe our elected officials and what they owe us is something every democracy has to fight to define.
Which honestly raises an important question to leave on.
Oh. What's that?
Well, building on this tension between public service and privilege, if we continue to strip away all the long-term financial safety nets and privileges of public office to ensure maximum fiscal discipline,
Right.
do we run the risk of creating a system where only the independently wealthy can ever afford to run for office in the first place?
Oh, well.
Because if you need to be a millionaire to survive a career in public service without a pension, does that actually give us the truly representative government the citizens were hoping for?
That is a heavy, tangled reality to mull over. If you remove all the security, who is actually willing to sign on the dotted line?
Exactly. It's a razor-thin tightrope.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the systems around you. Keep looking closely at the invisible contracts your society operates on, and we will catch you next time.